Okay, I've got something for you. The new parts have been fitted to the car. The simulation numbers are good, so I look forward to your feedback. Check out the details.
What is up, people, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode here at the Canadian Grand Prix for round 7 of this F1 2017 season. And if you have missed any of the previous episodes, definitely go catch up now with the card annotation in the top right hand corner of your screens. You'll find the previous episode at Monaco, which you should definitely go check out. That was an incredible race in Monaco, so definitely go watch that one. And of course, the playlist up there as well if you've missed any of the other ones too. But here in Canada, we have a new part fitted to the car. We've got a chassis upgrade going on to the car, which means that we are now still ahead of Toro Rosso and the Haas team in terms of development. But just taking a look quickly at the chassis, we're now above Haas and above Williams in terms of the chassis on our car, which is pretty decent, so we're very happy about that. But we need to continue this development on the car to try and compete more with the Force Indias and the Williams cars that we are, of course, battling with in the Constructors' Championship. So going through the track acclimatization straight away, smashing this one, getting 50 resource points, and that's absolutely fantastic. Really going to help us in terms of developing the cars. So I'm really happy about that, and we seem nice and comfortable around this Canadian Grand Prix. Getting the tyre wear management one done as well, and purple score for this one too, which is absolutely fantastic as well. Another 50 points into the bank, and hopefully we can spend them at the end of this race. But also now doing the fuel consumption tests, and look at that. We have first time ever, we have got the purple score, which is absolutely fantastic. The engine is smoking because, of course, we are using a worse engine in these practice sessions, just sort of get rid of them and not really waste the ones that we will need actually in the races. So that is absolutely fantastic, finishing practice 1 in last position, though, thanks to that really worn engine. But now doing the race strategy one, getting the purple score, another 50 points added to the resource team, and we're really happy about that. A good sort of race one there. Practice 2, finishing in P20 once again with a slightly worse engine because we're running a better engine in the final practice session. So down in 20th place, but like I always say, practice sessions, they don't really matter too much unless we really go full out in this qualifying run, which we have done this time around. 1.2 seconds quicker than the lap time delta as we come across the line, setting a 1:13.5, and there we go, getting another purple score. And for the first time this season, we have absolutely smashed the practice sessions, getting 50 resource points in every single test, which is absolutely amazing. Getting P5 at the end of the day, which is a great result as well, and that could really help us in the qualifying session. Only really better than Vettel, Ricciardo and Verstappen because they were on the super soft tyres. So we're sort of aiming for maybe around P7, P8 at the end of the day. We just have to wait and see as the qualifying session goes on. But that is it for the practice sessions. Let's head into qualifying.
Hello and welcome from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix, for today's qualifying session.
Here we go then, qualifying for the Canadian Grand Prix as we come down towards the start-finish line to end our first lap here in Q1. Was the lap time going to be good enough for it? So 1:14.1. We know that we can do better than that. We set 1:13.5s in the practice sessions, but at the moment we're in P8 in this qualifying session. We have improved on our second lap, going so much quicker, and there we go, 1:13.541, and that's put us at the moment up into P4. So great lap time here in Q1 that will put us through into Q2, which is absolutely fantastic in the P9, and a Nico Hülkenberg just about scraping through there into the second qualifying session. But just like in Monaco, we are only separated by 0.2 of a second, less than 0.2 of a second here today. So it is still very close between myself and my teammate. But here we are, first lap in Q2. What was the time good enough for? It's a 1:14.1 once again. Fastest lap at the moment, but nobody else has set any lap times. We're only really fastest because of that reason. But 1:14.1 is not exactly the best laps, just sort of a banker lap at the moment. We're currently down in P15. This lap is an improvement, but will it be enough to put us into Q2? Will it be enough? Come on. Yes, it is. P8 at the end of the day. Into Q2. Into Q3, sorry. Into the top 10 shootout once again. And we've really started to sort out these qualifying sessions. Unfortunately for Nico Hülkenberg, he is out at the end of the day. 0.3 of a second separating us two. We got the better end of the stick and are into the top 10 shootout. So here we are. Top 10 shootout for the Canadian Grand Prix as we come down towards the start-finish line to end our first lap of this qualifying session, and we're into P6. Good lap there at the end of the day. 1:13.5 1.0. Really good lap in this qualifying session. Can we improve on it though through turn 1 and turn 2? So far, it's very close between our first and second laps, but running a little bit wide there in towards turn 3 and turn 4. Cutting maybe turn 4 a little bit, but we completely missed the apex through turn 3, and that lost us so much time. Going through this next chicane nice and tidy through there, running it out as wide as we possibly dare, and that really helped us in terms of upping our delta time. Look at that coming down to very close between our first lap at the moment, through the right and then the left. Once again, so close between our first and our second lap times. Literally nothing in it at the moment. We come down towards the hairpin. So far, it's very even, but a great exit out of that corner once again puts us very close, but this time up on our previous best time by 15 thousandths of a second. DRS Open down towards the final chicane, the wall of champions. What can we do through this corner? Can we improve on our previous best lap time? Braking very late just before the 50-meter ball, but nice and smooth through the final chicane down towards the line. It's going to be 2/10 of a second faster, and there we go. What is the lap time good enough for? Will it get to the better position? Yes, it does. P5 in this qualifying session. That's absolutely fantastic result in this qualifying session. Maybe we're going to have to start to up the difficulty level in this career mode, but P5 at the end of the day, I will take that. Best of the rest, really, you know, not really competing with the Mercedes or the Ferraris, but better than both Red Bulls here today and both Williams, so we will take that. And that is an absolutely fantastic qualifying session here today. But it is Lewis Hamilton in pole position with Sebastian Vettel in second. On the second row of the grid is Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas. Joining me on the third row is Daniel Ricciardo in sixth, then it's Felipe Massa 7th, Max Verstappen in 8th, Lance Stroll in 9th, and Sergio Perez rounds out the top 10 here today. So what can we do from 5th on the grid? Let's find out.
It's a favourite for fans and drivers alike then here in Canada. We're used to seeing the unexpected happen here, and with me today to enjoy it all is Anthony Davidson, a man who knows firsthand the surprises that can pop up in this race.
Before we get into today's race though, let's take a look at the starting grid for the Canadian Grand Prix, and things aren't quite as shocking as they were back in Monaco. Not really any penalties to talk about apart from one for myself. Lewis Hamilton in pole position for today, Sebastian Vettel in second, it's Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas on the second row. On the third row is Daniel Ricciardo and Felipe Massa, then it's Max Verstappen with Lance Stroll in 8th, Perez in 9th, myself in 10th thanks to a gearbox penalty with Grosjean in 11th, then it's his teammate in 12th, Nico Hulkenberg 13th, Ocon in 14th, Carlos Sainz in 15th with Ericsson 16th, Verline 17th, Alonso in 18th with Stoffel Van Dorn 19th, and Danny Kvyat right at the back of the field thanks to a penalty for the Toro Rosso drivers. So like I said, a gearbox penalty taken here today, mainly because the gearbox was about 60% worn after the Monaco Grand Prix, and we back in Bahrain, that's where we started to see problems of losing gears, and we didn't really want to experience that at today's Canadian Grand Prix. We want to be as quick as we possibly can and make our way through the field. So we've taken this 5-pace grid penalty, but there's a lot of chances to overtake at this circuit. With the rain coming later on in today's race, once again, we're going to sort of mix up our strategy of going onto the Ultra Softs and then the Super Softs. Well, it's going to be a similar strategy, actually, of onto the Super Soft tyres, because we are better with the tyre wear. But the rain coming down will really help us sort of reduce the amount of tyre wear that we're going to be going through in today's race. So that is nice and fine. Fuel warning, because we've actually underfueled the car just to sort of keep on standard, as the team think I'm pretty good, actually, of saving fuel around this circuit. So that is nice to see from them. But let's get into today's race. Let's head down to the starting grid and hopefully see what we can do from 10th on the grid. Hopefully get some decent points here today, as here we are on the starting grid for today's Canadian Grand Prix. The lights are coming on now. We go to 5 red lights. It is lights out, and away we go. Not the best of starts there compared to the other drivers. Sergio Perez getting a great start down in towards turn 1. We had the Haas driver of Roman Grosjean go on our left-hand side. Get it squeezed out a little bit by Sergio Perez. Forced us onto the grass a tiny bit there. It's now side by side between myself and Roman Grosjean. But he gets the job done on me. Moves up into P10. And unfortunately, that's me down into P11. We have a little look up the inside down towards turn 3. But no point going up the inside. The race is not won or lost in the first lap, so there's no point doing that. So we can only really go backwards if we did that. Could have broken our front wing there, and well, you can lose the race in the first lap by making a complete blunder. As we're now cutting here to the end of lap 1, watching on board now with I believe this is Pascal Wehrlein in that Sauber car coming down towards the final chicane. So he's currently on the hunt of the Toro Rosso driver, which I believe is Danny Kvyat, who's had a fantastic start. No, it's actually Carlos Sainz, who's had a terrible start in today's race. But here goes Pascal Wehrlein down towards the final chicane. Can he do anything through there? Can't quite, but he's actually gone into the wall. Pascal Wehrlein out of nowhere into the wall for today's Canadian Grand Prix into the Wall of Champions. And unfortunately, that is Pascal Wehrlein out of today's race. So what on earth went on through here? Down towards the final chicane, locks up the front right tyre. And there we go, just goes into the barrier on the right-hand side. And that is him out of the race. However, was there any contact between himself and his teammate? Marcus Ericsson in P16. Doesn't look like it. No, just a lock up there from Pascal Wehrlein. Puts himself into the wall. And unfortunately for Wehrlein, that is him out of today's race. Marcus Ericsson, no gains from it, moves up into P16, so he won't really mind too much. We're now cutting ahead to lap 2 of my own race. We're hunting down Romain Grosjean and Sergio Perez. We know we are quick around this circuit. Perez locks up down in towards that chicane. Doesn't actually go into the wall like Pascal Wehrlein, but that's going to give us a great opportunity to go for the overtake on Romain Grosjean. I'm going to have to go around the outside of turn 1. We back out of it, but because Romain Grosjean sort of moves in front of us in the braking zone, we've gone into the back of him and unfortunately broken our front wing. It's not really going to matter too much because downforce isn't exactly that important around this circuit because there are so many straights, so he can still gain on the guys ahead, but it is going to cost us a little bit. So we're now watching this battle for P5, but yeah, it's going to cost us a little bit, but we're just going to nurse it before we come into the pit stop phase. Ricciardo goes up the inside of Felipe Massa down in towards the final chicane. He has to be careful because there is a lot of debris down to that final course. We come through the final corner now. We've actually ignored my own advice there, getting a puncture on the rear right of my Renault car. Disaster has struck here at the Canadian Grand Prix. A huge tyre blowout for myself, and that is only going to make me go backwards at the very early stages of this Canadian Grand Prix. We need to nurse this car home, and unfortunately for us, it is disaster here today. Everybody getting past us, including Stoffel Van Dorn, who is right to the back of the field, and that puts us way down into P19 at the moment as we try to make our way back to the pit lane, but we are just so goddamn slow at the moment. As we come into the pits now for our first pit stop. We didn't want to have to really make this pit stop so early on in today's race, but we're going to have to do so coming onto the soft tyres for today's race and pitting from P19 to get a new set of tyres because unfortunately we did damage those tyres. It's a little bit annoying that we didn't really get much of a warning that the debris was there. We knew it was there from the previous couple of laps, but it would have helped if there was a yellow flag warning us that there was debris down into that corner. But getting a new set of tyres fitted to the car and also a new front wing thanks to that damage that we sustained earlier on in the race. It's a slow 8.8 second pit stop there from myself and the Renault crew, but coming out still in P19, not yet lapped by the leaders, which is good news. So now we can push on in this Renault car and try to catch up to the back markers and maybe try and salvage some points here today. We could have just, you know, retired the car, saved the engine and stuff like that, but one, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to, you know, get rid of the racing for you guys, and two, you know, that's not my style. I don't want to give up on this race. There is still a chance with the rain coming later on, and if a safety car or something like that comes out, we could certainly be straight back into this race. We're now watching this battle develop between Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen, mainly because there is absolutely nothing going on in my race right now. But Sergio Perez side by side, no, not side by side, but Magnussen's going to give it a good old go down in towards the final chicane. Side by side now between the two drivers. Can't quite get through there at the moment, but still side by side between the two drivers down in towards turn 1. And Kevin Magnussen has got the job done this time around on Sergio Perez. And now Romain Grosjean having a little look up the inside, down in towards turn 1 and turn 2. I think Sergio Perez is going to get the job done having the inside line through turn 2. And yes, he does. Sergio Perez gets the job done and holds on to that P10 position. But now watching a battle at the same time going on between Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo, this time for P4 in today's race. That Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton really struggling, not only in this season, but also in today's race. And maybe there's a problem there for Lewis Hamilton as Daniel Ricciardo darts up the inside in towards this chicane on the right-hand side, gets the outside through this corner, but a much greater exit gets him the job done. And there he goes, moving up into P4. Great race at the moment for the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo, but can he hold on to it, or will that Mercedes start to the power start to kick back in and be able to go for the overtake once again? So we're now cutting into lap 12. So a few drivers have already made their pit stop in today's race. So we can now see Daniel Ricciardo behind the likes of Marcus Ericsson and Danny Kvyat. To go down in towards turn 1. Max Verstappen trying the move around the outside. Now the inside down in towards turn 1. Here he goes on his teammate, getting the job done momentarily, but Ricciardo comes back at him up the inside in towards that corner. Max Verstappen having to settle still for P13 in today's race, but now he goes up the inside once again, down in towards turn 3 and turn 4, but once again not able to get the job done on his teammate and having to settle for P13 right now. But a nice battle there from the two Red Bull teammates, and Max Verstappen just going for maneuvers left, right and centre. He wants to get past his teammate. He wants to move up through the field and get the best possible result of his race today. So we've now cut ahead to lap 23. We have finally caught up to one of the back markers. 23 laps in this race, and we are now on the back of Stoffel Vandoorne. The gap between the two of us is 0.525 seconds, which means that we will get DRS in today's race. So here we are on the back of the McLaren driver. That McLaren Honda is really lacking in power, especially around this circuit, so it should be a very simple maneuver on the right hand side down in towards the final chicane, and there we go, job done on Stoffel Vandoorne. Moving up into P18 for today's race, kicking out the back end through that final chicane. That is going to give Vandoorne maybe a chance to have a run on us down in towards turn 1, but unfortunately that straight line speed in that McLaren has really cost him the chance there, and we hold on to P18. Now cutting ahead to the battle for P17, caught up now to the back of Danny Kvyat, who is actually holding us quite a lot. That Stoffel Vandoorne has been able to catch up to us once again. So close between us three drivers, you know, 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second separating just the three of us. As we go down onto this back straight, we will get DRS, we will get slipstream from that Toro Rosso of Danny Kvyat. So here we go, down in towards the final chicane on the back of Danny Kvyat. What can we do on the Toro Rosso driver? Don't think we can get the job done in towards the final chicane, but if we can get a great line through here, we could be able to have a pounce down in towards turn 1. So here we go, on the back of Danny Kvyat, down in towards turn 1. Once again, going to have a look on the right-hand side, like we did on Roman Grosjean, but he squeezes me out onto the grass, unfortunately breaking onto the grass there, and we ran very deep in towards turn 1, having to take the escape road, and unfortunately, that's put me back down into P19 in today's race, with two of the leaders right behind me of Kimi Räikkönen and Sebastian Vettel. So what we're going to do now is not push on, not ignore these blue flags. We're going to let Kimi Räikkönen through as soon as possible, and also let Sebastian Vettel through as well. And whilst those two drivers overtake Stoffel Vandoorne and Danny Kvyat, we will just sneak past and take away that P17 from both those drivers. So there we are, moving to the right-hand side, letting Sebastian Vettel through. He is currently chasing down Kimi Räikkönen for the lead of this race. That is a nice little battle going on between those two drivers right now. So yellow flag has come out somewhere on this lap, so we're going to have to wait and see what that is exactly about. But now coming down in towards the hairpin, still, you know, nice distance between myself and Sebastian Vettel at the moment, as it looks like Kimi Räikkönen is getting held up by those two back markers at the moment, down in towards this long back straight. And there's actually Max Verstappen on the left hand side. So Max Verstappen is out of today's race. Disaster there for the Red Bull driver, who was very feisty with his teammates earlier on. Hopefully we get a replay of exactly what happened down there. But there we go, the two leaders getting past, and we are just sneaking on the right hand side when they are so slow out of that final chicane. Job done on both those drivers, moving up into P17. And now trying to just sort of follow behind the two Ferrari drivers still, just to sort of get that toe and maybe work our way back through the field once again. There's not long left to go in this race, though, to do that, so not many chances are going to present themselves. But we're now watching on board Max Verstappen to see exactly what happened to the Red Bull drivers. So it looks like Roman Grosjean, the Haas, really struggling with its brakes so far this season. So that's very realistic from the game. And there's actually an engine blowout for Max Verstappen. That caused a problem for the Red Bull driver, and there's contact between himself and his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Max Verstappen just cuts across the Red Bull driver, and that puts himself into the wall. The two teammates collide, and you've got to think, Max Verstappen, what on earth were you doing here today? Goes up the inside there of Roman Grosjean, side by side with the Haas driver, just sort of squeeze them out there. They're still side by side. Then the engine sort of gives way, and as he pulls over to the escape road, cuts across his own teammate, didn't really check his mirrors, and unfortunately it's put him out of the race. And not only done that, but I think it's given Daniel Ricciardo a lot of front wing damage. So here we go, on board with Daniel Ricciardo now. There's the engine blowout for Max Verstappen, and just watch, he just cuts straight across Ricciardo. Ricciardo, you know, can't anticipate that, has nowhere to go, breaks a little bit of his front right end plate, and unfortunately for Ricciardo, that's going to be a bit of front wing damage that he's now got to try and defend from, I believe that is the Williams driver on his tail. So really unfortunate there for Daniel Ricciardo, who's still following behind Roman Grosjean. Of course, Grosjean does have these brake problems, and there he goes, locking up down towards turn 1. Ricciardo says thank you very much, takes away that position. So does Felipe Massa, and he moves up into P8 as well. So Grosjean really struggling with his brakes in today's Canadian Grand Prix. Of course, the brake wear at this race is really high. You've got a lot of big braking zones at this Canadian Grand Prix. But now watching on board with Sebastian Vettel, big lock up there for Kimi Räikkönen. So maybe Räikkönen has the same problem. However, he has been on those soft tyres for quite a long time in this race. I think they're both doing the one stop still, just on slightly different tyres. as now Vettel going for the overtake on Kimi Räikkönen down in towards the final chicane. It's side by side between the two race leaders, the two Ferrari men. Little bit of contact through the chicane, but Sebastian Vettel gets the job done. Great maneuver there from the German down in towards the final chicane. He is into the lead of the race, heading into the final 5 laps of this Canadian Grand Prix, as we are now getting overtaken once again from one of the race leaders. This time it's Valtteri Bottas that we're just going to let him through, slow down a little bit. He's going to go for the overtake on the right hand side. We're just going to back out into this corner, give him that position, and there we go. Valtteri Bottas still in P3, and we're not really held each other up too much, so that's not too bad from the two of us. But what can we do on the other drivers around us? We're now watching Daniel Ricciardo, the only Red Bull driver still in this race, on the hunt now of the Force India. I believe that is Esteban Ocon just ahead of him. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is Esteban Ocon in this race. The yellow flags around. There's a lot of smoke coming out of the back of that Red Bull car as he pulls over to the left-hand side. Both Red Bull drivers out of today's race thanks to engine failures. They are going to be so frustrated after today's race. And the safety car has actually been deployed in today's Canadian Grand Prix. That could, well, it could really help us out because they do have to let us through, I believe, in the safety car period. So it will mean that we will unlap ourselves in today's race. But the rain is actually coming down at this point of the Canadian Grand Prix. So we might actually take a little bit of a strategy. Look at the rain coming down. We're just going to take that gamble. We might as well take the gamble, go onto the intermediate tyres, and just see what happens. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work, we weren't going to score points anyway. But if it does work, we could possibly unlap ourselves and catch up to the other drivers and maybe get into the points here today. Pitting from P15 at the moment. So here we go. Onto the intermediate tyres. There are only 2 laps left to go of this Canadian Grand Prix. So it is a big gamble at the end of the day. And will there be enough time for us to work our way back through the field? We just have to wait and see. Of course, we do need to get past Sebastian Vettel once again, because otherwise we will cut off at the end of lap 34. So there is definitely a lot to do in today's Canadian Grand Prix, but coming out just side by side with Lewis Hamilton. I think we are going to get the job done on the Mercedes driver, which we do, and there we go, getting ahead of Lewis Hamilton, which is good news for us because we needed to do that. It means one less driver that we do have to overtake. And coming out onto these intermediate tyres, we did struggle a little bit. I do have to admit we did struggle a little bit, but luckily because we were driving slower than usual, it didn't mind too much as there's actually, whoa, what on earth went on there? Kevin Magnussen just goes straight into the safety car. We get a replay. We didn't expect that, but Kevin Magnussen out of today's race. And just like what we saw in Monaco, the drivers don't know how to handle the safety car coming out. Sergio Perez doing a very similar thing there, going straight into the back of the safety car. To be fair to Perez, he didn't really have anywhere to go, and he has unfortunately broken his front wing, and that's going to drop him way down towards the back of the field. It may, though, give us a chance to overtake him, as though we've let through Lewis Hamilton because the blue flags were out. But we are actually sort of very similar in terms of grip level between the softs and the intermediate tyres. With 2 laps left to go in this race, I believe Sebastian Vettel has crossed the start-finish line. So, trying to follow behind at the moment, Lewis Hamilton in that Mercedes car. We are actually keeping up with the Mercedes car. A little bit of a bang there on the wall on the right-hand side, but no damage to the car, which is good news. It looks like Danny Kvyat is into the pits. I think he will come out just ahead of us down in towards turn 2. He's running a little bit too deep into turn 1. But these intermediate tyres, they are working very, very nicely at the moment. Kvyat sort of lets through Lewis Hamilton there. We're going to pounce on that, go up the inside, and there we go, getting the job done on Danny Kvyat. Maybe have a little look up the inside of Lewis Hamilton, which I believe he is now slower than us in this Canadian Grand Prix, which unfortunately is actually holding us up quite a lot. We need to get past Lewis Hamilton as soon as possible. We need to make our way through this field as soon as possible, because of course we need to get past Sebastian Vettel. If we don't get the job done on Vettel, then unfortunately that is going to be our race over. We're now right on the back of the Mercedes man. We'll get the job done in towards his next chicane. No, we're just not close enough at the moment, and he's just holding us up so much through the corners. But now we're just going to go for it. We're going to go for it down in towards this hairpin. Here we are on the back of Lewis Hamilton. He's got a little bit maybe extra grip there, or better straight line speed down to the hairpin. And we're just going to go for a little bit of a switchback maneuver. We're much better out of corners on these intermediate tyres. And there we go, putting our foot down. Look at the grip level. Look at the traction compared to Lewis Hamilton there. Getting the job done, unlapping ourselves. And now we can go on the hunt of Stoffel van Dorn, who is actually ahead of us. So Stoffel van Dorn getting back out in front of us in this Canadian Grand Prix. But the leaders have crossed the line. They have crossed the line to start what is their final lap of this Canadian Grand Prix. We are hoping that it's not going to be the final lap of our Canadian Grand Prix, because if we do get past them, then we will have one more lap to maybe try and catch up to the guys who are running in the points, which I think we definitely have a chance to. Just looking at how slow everybody is out on the circuit right now, they are definitely on the wrong tyres, but there was no point those guys coming into the pits with only 2 laps left to go, and I was so far behind that they didn't really have to worry about me as well. But there is still a chance. We're now catching up to Stoffel Van Dorn. What can we do on the McLaren driver in towards this next couple of corners? Can we get the job done through the left, then the right? We're going to have great acceleration out of this right-hander. So here we are, all right on the back of the Stoffel Van Dorn. Just look at the grip. So much extra grip out of that corner. It's job done on the McLaren driver, moving up into P14 now and trying to hunt down Sergio Perez, who of course did have that front wing issue earlier on in the race after going into the back of the safety car. But we need to see, where are Sebastian Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas? We need to get past those 3 drivers. There's 2 of them right now, Valtteri Bottas and Kimi Raikkonen, going through this final hairpin down towards this back straight, towards the final chicane now. What can we do on these drivers? Is it going to be enough at the end of the day? Right behind Kimi Raikkonen and Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas actually overtaking Kimi Raikkonen there through that final hairpin. So good job done for Valtteri Bottas. But into the final chicane now. I don't think it's going to be enough. Those 2 going very slowly out of the corner. Sebastian Vettel wins the Canadian Grand Prix. And unfortunately, it was a case of just 1 more lap. If they'd given us 1 more lap in this race, then we maybe would have been able to get the guys in the top 10. But at the end of the day, it was just not meant to be. A bit of a disappointing race then at today's Canadian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, finishing down in P14. No points scored today. That puncher just cost us so much. Getting that puncher at the start of the race just, yeah, cost us so much time at the end of the day. It was just a case of trying, damage limitation, trying to get back up through the field. We did have a chance because of the rain coming down later on. That's why I didn't want to retire the car. And I just didn't want to give up because, anything could have happened. A safety car could have came out and we could have been straight back in the race. Yes, maybe we should have saved the engine at the end of the day. It really would have helped me in terms of not getting penalties later on down the road. But, I had to give it a go. I had to give it a go at the end of the day. And unfortunately, we just came so close, but it unfortunately just was not close enough. But Sebastian Vettel, he wins today's Canadian Grand Prix with Valtteri Bottas second, and Kimi Raikkonen third. Lewis Hamilton finishes in 4th at the end of the day. Esteban Ocon in 5th, and Roman Grosjean in 6th. Good result for those 2 drivers. Carlos Sainz in 7th, and my teammate Nico Hülkenberg finishes in 8th, with Lance Stroll 9th, and Fernando Alonso actually scoring points once again, getting another point at today's Canadian Grand Prix. Marcus Ericsson just missing out there in the Sauber. And then looking further down the field, Felipe Massa finishes in 12th with a 20-second time penalty. So not good there for the Williams driver. Sergio Perez finishes in 13th. We're in 14th, 1 lap down. There's Stoffel Van Dorn behind us, and so was Danny Kvyat. Then our DNS were Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, and Pascal Wehrlein. No change for us, though, in the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, myself, and Sergio Perez. None of us scoring points in today's Canadian Grand Prix. So we are still 4 points away from Daniel Ricciardo in the Championship. And maybe some more reliability issues for the Red Bull team. And we could possibly get the jump on those guys. We'll just have to wait and see. But, yeah, not exactly the best of races here today. Nico Hülkenberg sneaking into the top 13 as well with 14 points at the moment for their team. But looking at the Constructors' Championship as well, and Renault are still in P4 with that one too. 58 points on board, but we were only 3 points ahead of the Force India team right now. So we do maybe need to step up our game, try and stay ahead of Force India. If we can get P4 at the end of the season, then that'll be absolutely fantastic. That is the goal, of course. Get P4 and then maybe next season try to look at the Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari teams. But so far so good. P4 in the Constructors' Championship, and we can't really complain too much. But that's it for the Canadian Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so for daily Formula 1 content, and don't forget to let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below, and share the video with your friends. But I'll see you next time at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.